Thanks for staying with us here on KCTV 5 Plus. Taylor Johnson joined with Zac Summers. We are going behind the story on Zac's latest investigation about a young lady pregnant with twins, dead at 21, and why her fentanyl death and others go uncharged. So, Zac, what can you tell us about this investigation? How did this come about?
Yeah, so while we highlight the woman's death, the point of the story is to really shed light on a much larger issue, and that is that despite so many fentanyl deaths in our region and really across the nation, a lot of these cases never really get to a prosecutor and inside a courtroom, and therein lies justice for the family whose loved one died because of the drug.
And in this story, the numbers that you share are pretty staggering. So we are going to play the story so that everyone can get the context, and then we'll be back with another discussion.
We've seen the news coverage.
Police seize 9 pounds of fentanyl.
Major fentanyl bust by area police.
2 people are in jail.
Alleged dealers arrested and charged.
The filing accuses Willis and Carson.
Their actions tied to deaths.
Hunter's death was a drug deal turned deadly.
Some even convicted.
Torrin Bauman changed his plea to guilty.
But for some Metro families, justice never comes.
It says, "I'm so excited, getting more and more nervous. They kick so much."
That's one of the last text messages Crystal Bethune's daughter sent before her sudden death in January.
None of it makes sense to me.
Her daughter, 21-year-old Jalen Punchin, was 26 weeks pregnant with twins. She was expecting a boy and girl.
She was excited about becoming a mother?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she was.
In the early hours of January 10th, 2025, Jalen's boyfriend found her unresponsive in their Independence home. Her boyfriend told police he'd gone to a nearby store, gone for about 45 minutes. When he returned, he says he found Jalen hunched over in a gaming chair and called 911.
I don't understand how they believed everything he said.
Crystal says what's in the police report only deepened her doubts. According to the report, the boyfriend gave officers a fake name. He was caught on body camera taking something from the scene, and he later hid a jacket he'd been wearing. That same report noted he had a felony warrant and was flagged for selling drugs.
I still, in my own heart, don't feel that Jalen did this to herself.
Despite initial signs of foul play, including marks on Jalen's neck and burst blood vessels, which the medical examiner on scene noted as odd, Jalen's death was ruled an accidental fentanyl overdose.
I feel like that they got the autopsy report and that there was fentanyl in her system, and it was the easiest way to close a case.
The Independence Police Department tells me they thoroughly investigated Jalen's case, but after reviewing all the evidence, detectives determined there was not enough probable cause to submit the case for potential charges. Jalen's case isn't unique. I filed public records requests in the Metro's 2 largest counties, Jackson County, Missouri, and Johnson County, Kansas, to see how many fentanyl-related deaths actually make it to prosecutors. In Jackson County, at least 628 people have died since 2022. Police sent just 17 cases to prosecutors. Charges were filed in 9. That means less than 1.5% of fentanyl deaths ever reached a courtroom. Across the state line in Johnson County, there were 144 deaths. Only 14 cases were sent to prosecutors, with charges filed in 11. Hundreds of lives lost, but no justice. Is that a problem? Is that alarming?
I'm a little bit surprised to hear that it's that low, but I can tell you that it's understandable.
Tony Mativi is the director of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. He says the numbers don't tell the whole story.
There's nobody that I know inside the law enforcement community who's not taking this problem seriously.
Mativi says many departments lack the necessary resources to investigate fentanyl overdoses, and oftentimes they're ruled accidents.
If you have a medical examiner rule that the death was accidental, that's a really difficult hurdle for us to get over after the fact.
He says the facts are different for every case, but with fentanyl poisonings, the deceased's phone is crucial to the investigation.
We have a constant battle when it comes to technology. The bad guy is always a step ahead of us.
And proving intent in these cases is a high bar to clear.
Jackson County Prosecutor Melissa Johnson.
The harsh reality is we cannot prosecute what we don't receive. And then once we do get a case file, again, we have to prove every single element of the applicable charge beyond a reasonable doubt.
Johnson says the other challenge is many dealers don't know what they're dealing.
They think that they're selling Percocets. They think that they're selling other pills, but they're all cut with fentanyl.
She says the burden remains high, but she's optimistic about a new Missouri law that took effect last year. It makes delivery of a controlled substance resulting in death a Class A felony.
With this new law, I do feel confident that moving forward, we will be able to see more families get a measure of justice.
In October, Prosecutor Johnson filed charges in at least 2 fentanyl death cases using that new law. Kansas has a similar statute, and families there have found accountability of their own. Families like Andy and Rhonda Burris in Lansing.
Every opportunity that we had, we kept asking, hey, it's been a couple months. Tell us where you are on the case.
Their son, 15-year-old Cruz Burris, thought he was buying a Percocet on Snapchat. Instead, the pill was laced with fentanyl and killed him.
We were at a stalemate with our local law enforcement. They did not have the mechanisms, they did not have the equipment or the skills to be able to open the phone.
Through their advocacy work with Cruz for Life, named in honor of their son, the Burris caught the attention of local and state leaders. The Secret Service ultimately cracked Cruz's phone, leading investigators to Torrin Ballman.
We were lucky in the fact that we also had so much evidence.
Ballman was convicted and in January was sentenced to nearly 13 years in prison.
Be persistent, to talk to your community leaders, to other politicians, reach out to your senator, reach out to anyone who could help move the ball forward.
Would have been the last time I would have seen her.
10 months after her daughter's death, a baby's high chair and diapers still sit in Crystal's dining room.
I'm not sure if I'll ever put it away. That's
a reminder of what could have been.
Fall was our favorite season, and she should be here with us and her children, my grandchildren.
As time passes, the seasons change. Crystal watches news stories of other families who got justice, hoping one day her daughter will too.
Do more to charge the people that are selling the stuff and killing people.
Zac Summers, KCTV 5 News.
You know, Zach, what really stood out to me in this story is just a contrast between one family that was able to receive justice and the other who is still hoping that they'll get their day in court. And I mean, the numbers that were shared from the prosecutors, I mean, it's very staggering, the number of fentanyl deaths versus the amount that actually get prosecuted.
Yeah, it's a real challenge for law enforcement and prosecutors. You know, in talking with both the KBI and the Jackson County prosecutor, the evidence needs to be there in order for them to submit the case to prosecutors, and then for prosecutors to decide whether or not they are going to move forward with charges, because the burden is so high, as we mentioned in the story, and that's really the big challenge. But the reason why I included the Burris is to really show that, like, not all is lost, and really for that family, the advocacy work that they did, they told me, like, if you're not an advocate for your loved one, who else will be? And so they stayed persistent, and it paid off. Unfortunately, that's just not the case with every family who's lost a loved one due to this drug.
And working in local news in different markets, this story touches so many people beyond Kansas City, and it's also unfortunate to see that a good number of these victims are young people. Just even the Burris' son being on Snapchat or social media, thinking he was getting one thing and it turning out to be something else. And based on reporting that I've done in the past, I feel like that's a common trend there.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. I think it's safe to say that for the most part, folks who take drugs or are taking them, they're not looking to die when they do it. Not that that excuses the behavior, but nobody's looking to die for the most part when they take this stuff. So it's just a really unfortunate deal overall, for the person who takes the drug unknowingly or knowingly, and then for their families who are left just looking for some sort of justice. It's sad all around, but the story, you talk about what we're seeing across the nation. Fentanyl is not just a problem here in our region. It is all across the country. I mean, according to the CDC, it is one of the leading accidental overdoses, is one of the leading causes of death for Americans under 45. So, there's so much education that needs to be had around the topic of fentanyl. But I'm so happy that we're talking about it, because it is a problem and it doesn't appear to be going away. And there are challenges all around when it comes to getting this stuff off the streets and out of the hands of all Americans.
Yeah, and one thing that we heard the Jackson County prosecutor say is that, they can't prosecute what they don't know about. And you just talked about education and awareness. That some people probably don't know how to plead that particular case, especially as it was mentioned in your story that these overdoses most times are ruled accidental.
And it doesn't, with fentanyl, it doesn't take a lot for fentanyl to turn disastrous or tragic, so really people just need to know that the dangers that are associated with this drug, but also, let it be a cautionary tale of be careful with what you're buying or taking from people out there, because as we heard in the story, a lot of these dealers don't even know what they're selling. They believe it's one thing, but then it's laced with fentanyl, and now you have a life loss and a family hurting,
Yeah, a tragedy all around. In with the Burris' case with their son, I know that they were able later on, after it was too late though, to go through his phone records and things like that. So maybe with some of these teenagers, it might be good for parents just to kind of keep a closer eye, especially on social media, because you can come across all kinds of things these days.
Yeah, and I will say, and we mentioned this in our web articles, there are things that are happening locally on both sides of the state lines to tackle this. The prosecutor, just last month posted how the Jackson County Drug Task Force has so far this year taken fentanyl off, 1,400 grams of fentanyl off the streets, which is like enough to kill upwards of 714,000 people, more than the population of Kansas City, the city of Kansas City. On the Kansas side, the KBI, they also have a task force team, if you will. It's called the Impact Team, where they're specifically focused on fentanyl, going after the people who are selling this. That team was started back in 2023, and since then the legislature has given that agency millions of dollars to beef up their staffing and to help them with the tools that they need to go after this drug that just keeps tearing families apart.
Yeah, and your story started out with just the various stories that we've covered on fentanyl cases. And with this investigation, we know this is going to be an ongoing story because it still remains an issue. Where does a story like this go from here?
Well, the Independence Police Department made it very clear in their correspondence with us that they have no intentions of reopening Jalen's case. Like I mentioned in the story, they say that they thoroughly investigated and there just wasn't enough evidence to send the case to prosecutors. In looking at the investigative report, we know that police extracted data from Jalen's phone, but the report doesn't outline what exactly, if anything, they found. So we just don't really know everything that police saw as it relates to her case. But again, they said that what they did saw, the evidence that they did see, it just wasn't enough. And sadly, that's the reality. Unless by chance, they decide to take a second look. But right now they say that as for Jalen's case, it's closed.
Well, we wish peace and comfort to her family. And Zac, thank you for doing the work in this investigation. So for those of you at home who want to watch again, or maybe you want to dig a little deeper, read a little more, we do have this on our website. You can find it on kctv5.com. And, Zac mentioned that there's some additional data that's in here that you might want to check out and just get a little deeper into the stories that were told. So thank you again, Zac, for letting us go behind the story with you. We'll have you back soon. And with that, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.